Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, 9 p.m. Brazil time, and it's time for class. Welcome to one more Fluent for Real live lesson of the week. And today, as you can see in the title, somewhere, probably here, we're going to talk about 15 plus things that fluent speakers do tonight. And my partner MC and I are here to help you take your English from okay, leave that okay English behind, and reach the English that only 2% of Brazilians actually speak. The English that unlocks any doors in your professional dreams. Welcome to class. Welcome, everybody. Eneison, Leo.
And let's say hi to my partner MC all the way from Canada. Hey, partner.
Hello! Is everybody ready to improve their English?
I sure do hope so. I was doing some math, and this is probably our live lesson number 76.
Oh, for real?
For real. And then I'm planning something special for live one number, 100, or maybe even before that, something symbolic. It's a lot of live lessons, right? Hi, Neura. Hi, João. Hi, Vanessa. Welcome to class. I am going to a comment and make this comment here, fixated there, so
And to
everyone
be
can
honest,
see.
let's look at each other here. I have short sleeves on, and you have even scarf on. Oh my God.
I do. It was really cold here in BH today. Hi, Emmanuel. Welcome to class, our dear student. Hi, Márcio. Hello, LH Medeiros. Hello there. Yes, so it's BH cold, BH cold, of course. It's not your cold. Hi, Juju. But I like this temperature. I like how things get here in BH. It's never too hot or too cold, but we get a little bit of a chilly, wintry-ish time.
Yeah, just enough to pop up the look.
Yes, nice. Just enough to glam up the look. So as you all can see in the title and also in the comments here, we're going to talk about 15 plus things that fluent speakers do. And we want your collaboration here. Hi there. Hi, Kachita. Hi, Niziane. We want your collab. We at Fluent for Real, we don't like to be bookish. We don't like to talk about English in a way that, is academic and too difficult to understand. We like the real stuff. We like the real useful, language, and we like to, every chance we get, translate what is more technical to what is, useful and easy for you all to understand. So we were talking, right? We always talk about what is fluency, what is advanced English. And even though there are, let's say, academic definitions for that, it's really hard for us normal human beings, and I include myself there, even though I'm a teacher, to really grasp that, in the real world. Because why do you need English? You have real objectives, you have a life, you have challenges, you have real life situations where you need your English, where you face people speaking English and you get nervous, and you have to face big challenges and overcome those challenges. So the real life English, what is it about? So we decided to bring our list, kind of like a summary of a longer list that we have. We already have some videos, here talking about that. But we decided to get like the 15 top things that fluent speakers do that make them fluent speakers, the things that you may be doing already, so you can feel happy that you are doing those things. Like, hey, you know what? This is something that I do. Maybe I'm getting closer than I thought I was. And also other things that you might be, that might be a good, thermometer for you in the near future. Right, MC?
Correct. Let's get going then.
Let's get going. I want to hear your take on this too, everybody watching. Of course, MC, if you have anything else to add, to include. This was a list that I made. I'm pretty sure I consulted you when I made it. It's like, what do you think?
You
Do you
did.
agree? Yeah, but still, there might be new things that you feel are things that they do. And what's the goal here again? Shortly, just before we jump in, to when you know where you're going, when you know your goal, you know how to get there. It's easier to get there. So what do you want from your English? You want fluency. You want to get that 2% English, the English that will open doors, to your professional goals. You want that English. So let's try and aim at that English today, right? So I have my very, very technological, you'll see, my very, very technological little book here. Let's go. Number one, things fluent speakers do. Number one. Comment below as well if you agree with me or if you remembered something else, okay? Number one, you are speaking your own native language like Portuguese, and then you just can't remember a word in Portuguese. But then you do remember that word in English. And then you know that word even describes the idea better, sometimes. So what's it called? What's it called? Like, I know this in English, but I forgot the word in Portuguese. That's number one. Has that ever happened to you? Leave it in the comments. MC, how often does that happen to you?
Well, I would say at least once a week. It does happen, and it's especially when I'm having meetings with the team in Brazil. Sometimes that can feel like, oh my God, all right, you're so Canadian at a point that you don't even remember Portuguese words. It's like, no, it's not that. It's just because I'm used to having this kind of meeting with this kind of content in English. So then my brain is trained with some specific vocabulary, and it doesn't even mean that's great vocabulary in English. It just means that, well, it is what it is for today.
Yeah, it does happen, right? Like you lack a word in Portuguese and you remember the word in English. And it sounds a little arrogant, doesn't it? Like, oh, I'm
It
sorry, I
does.
forgot the
It
word.
does.
It sounds arrogant, but it's not the intention. It's not. We promise it's not. All right, so let's go number two here.
Nice technique. I loved it.
I told you I was technological today. Number two, you know how to ask questions like a native speaker the right way using the right grammar. Don't think that the Brazilian way of asking questions, you work here, you went there, is what a fluent speaker does. A fluent speaker asks questions using the right auxiliary verbs. Did you go? Have you seen? What would you have done? What should they have done? Inverting the subject and the na and the verb, all right? So remember that. It's something that fluent speakers do. As a teacher, I can see that, that ability of fluent speakers being able to ask questions correctly. So if you don't, correct that. It's something to work on. Don't assume it's a detail. It is not a detail. It's one, imagine this. We speak using affirmative sentences, negative sentences, right? Sometimes a negative question and questions. That's basically what we do when we're speaking. So it's 25% of everything that you say. So it has to be clear. It has to be well constructed. You can't just forget to use the correct verbs because it will jeopardize your communication, all right? That's number two.
All right, I have a comment
do you see
on
that a lot?
So
Okay,
yeah,
go.
before we move on, to be honest, I see myself asking questions without the things in the right way, probably once a day. Because to be honest, it's so ingrained in our brains, and it's so there that you want to, and you're trying to communicate so fast. Your brain's working faster than your mouth, and it's so complicated sometimes that I end up saying, "You're gonna deliver that by 5 p.m., right?"
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Uh-huh. But then that would be in your 5 to 10%, quota
Yeah.
of the bilingual. scheme. You know, you're bilingual. So of course you will have, like you said, my brain is working really fast. And of course, native speakers will also do that. They're gonna go, you're gonna do that, right? They do that as well, but not as a systematic way of asking questions. They do that, you know, as you said, sometimes, very rarely, more rarely than not. So I always say, like, our English is never going to be perfect. As bilingual people, fluent speakers, we don't have to have a perfect English. We can have a very good English. You know, 90% of the time, what I say is right. 95, excellent. That's excellent. You know, anything that you do in life that you are 90% correct, you know, it's pretty good. So it's okay. I mean, that's more than natural, especially on Mondays, right, MC? After a weekend speaking Portuguese, or after coming to Brazil for a month and going back to work in Canada, of course you're going to make those mistakes because your brain is kind of wired on Portuguese. So number 3, things fluent speakers do. You are yourself speaking English. You feel like you are yourself. You feel like you can show your personality, show who you are, communicate naturally, just like you do in your own native language. What do you guys think so far? Do you agree with these? Do you remember anything else? Real life things, you know, very simple things. Leave it in the comments. And what do you think? How do you feel about this one, MC?
Well, that one, I agree. I had a story just here to share with everyone about that. I agree with everything, but that one specifically. You said something that triggered that my memory. Now I forgot.
Like being yourself?
No.
No?
Oh, about being funny. I
Oh.
remember now. Because, for example, you're a funny person in Portuguese. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a funny person in English unless you feel comfortable with the language and you also understand the culture. Because humor is different in different countries as well. So it's not like a no-brainer that you're going to be funny in all languages. Besides mastering the language itself, you also need to understand the environment, the people, formality, and things like that. So cultural aspects play a role in this. And that's something that I realized the hard way. Once I was comfortable already with the language, I was like, well, but I'm still like, people still find me like a weirdo sometimes.
That's actually number 4, so I'm gonna.
No, okay.
Go.
So that
No,
was
go
the
ahead,
cue
go ahead,
to
keep
that.
going, keep going. And then you learned it the hard way.
Yeah, because then once I was comfortable with the language and languages was not a big deal anymore, all of a sudden I'm like, well, but it's still not landing so well with people. People are still sometimes reacting like, oh, like, don't really know what you mean, but that's okay. And even well, especially in informal aspects of your life, like CrossFit or doing something else not work related, that's when it comes up really heavy. And at work sometimes as well. But anyway, like it's you need to understand how to be sarcastic, how to be ironic, if that's part of your personality in Portuguese. So not only mastering the language and feeling comfortable with that, but also it's going to take some time for you to adjust in terms of like how people react and what is funny for them and things like that. So you need to observe others too. Like people similar to you in a different language, what do they do? What do they say? How do they behave?
For sure. Yeah, I think that that was number 4, and I forgot to say at the beginning, these things that we are listing, they are things that fluent speakers do, but it doesn't mean that if, you know, to be fluent, you have to check all of these. This is a list of things that we see and that happen to us and that I see with my students and people that I know that are fluent, all right? You don't have to check all of these. Try to see which ones fit you or which ones you can see happening around you as well, right? And like MC said, being funny and understanding jokes, which was number 4 here, is something that many fluent speakers will be able to do very well, you know, because they have immersed in the language, immersed in the culture so much, watching movies, reading books, you know, those jokes that you only understand if you are immersed in the culture, not only in the language, but in the culture as well, you know. maybe like punchlines, words that mean something and something else. All of this requires and takes time. So if you do get that humor, if you do get to understand jokes, good for you, great for you. It's going to be something extra plus, a plus that you can have. But of course, you don't need to be funny to survive, to have a great English, to be fluent, to find a job, to get a job
Yeah,
abroad or, in a
it's a
global
matter.
company.
Yeah, it's a matter of being you and being yourself, and comfortable with yourself. So if you
Yeah,
are, depending on how your personality is in Portuguese, we hope you are still that person in English. And it
yeah.
works as well when you listen, when you're listening to native speakers. Oftentimes I get people saying something and I'm taking those words literally, and I'm like, whoa, and then, no, it's a joke, it's a joke. And I'm like, well, you didn't react as if you didn't send me a clue so I could understand it was a joke. Like, how was I supposed to know?
Uh-huh.
But anyway, okay,
Yeah.
it happens.
João Marcel asked the question here. It's weird to me when I see someone using some very specific, particular expressions in a meeting just to look like a native, but it sounds kind of fake to me, at least to me. What do you think about it? Um, of course, I don't know which expressions exactly you are talking about, but that feeling of first using expressions that make a lot of sense in Portuguese and trying to translate that into English, wanting to sound idiomatic, that is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Because you could sound crazy, you could sound exactly like you're saying fake, it could sound like nonsense. Because idiomatic expressions are idiomatic. They are different depending on the idiom, right? On the language. So it's very dangerous. If that's what you mean, I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should really study the idiomatic expressions, the way they are in English, the meaning, the usage, and not try to bring something from Portuguese. I think that's what he meant, right, MC?
Yeah, because if it was actually, if the asking for a friend, if the person who is doing that, if they are using the right expressions, it doesn't seem fake to the eye of the audience or something like that. It seems natural. Even everyone will have an accent if it's your second language, so it doesn't bother anyone. What bothers people is usually not being able to understand and not being clear, and like too difficult to hear for a long period of time. So that's what usually bother people as far as I can observe.
Oh,
Um,
he wrote an example here. Example, it's around the corner.
where can you see this? I can't.
In the comments. Why am I
No,
slow?
last
I'm slow with to myself. Okay.
the
There's a
last
delay to
comment I had.
myself, but it's
Yeah,
okay.
no, I don't see that. Too bad. But anyway, I'm glad you're seeing that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I am. So he wrote an example here. It's around the corner. That actually is an idiomatic expression that exists. When it says something is coming soon, it's around the corner. Like,
Summer's around the
uh,
corner.
yeah, for you. Summer's around the corner for Canadians. I was gonna say São João is around the corner. São João,
Not
like
only,
the
yeah, and
holiday.
not only it's not fake, but also it's necessary when you want to have that seamless conversation, that flowy conversation. So
Hmm.
embrace that and go.
Yeah,
It if it's fake, it's gonna seem fake to other Brazilian speakers, not to the natives.
yeah. If you are enjoying the class so far, hit the little heart button here, please. It helps us a lot. LH, I think it's Luiz Henrique. I'm not
Luiz
sure.
Henrique
Yes,
Medeiros.
okay, Luiz Henrique. Weather jokes. Are weather jokes in Canada usual? MC, that one is for you.
Daily, daily. People love to talk about the weather and they love to make jokes about the weather. And it's usually a morning thing, a morning icebreaker. Well, this is before COVID when we used to go to the office, right? That was like, hey, a morning joke for everyone. But now that we're all working from home here, uh, it still comes up. Like, how's the weather in Toronto? Here in Sudbury, so beautiful today. Mm. I'm going to take this meeting outside because the weather is so great. But I mean, it's not only jokes, our comments in general are really a thing here. People watch the weather news every single day.
Yeah, it is something vital to planning your day, planning your weekend, planning, right? It's not like here we take the weather for granted very often.
Yeah.
If it rains a lot, we might go like, oh, okay, I got to do something about it. I won't be able to do this, but we do take it for granted a lot. So number 5 was actually related to what João said. Number 5 is, pay attention to this one, all right? This one will be a little more, this one is the teacher speaking. You, fluent speaker, are able to naturally change your vocabulary and level of richness in your vocabulary depending on where you are. When you are with friends, you know how to communicate with them. At a fancy restaurant, with your boss, with your co-workers, you know, at a meeting. So that person is able to use the language the same way that we wear clothes. You know, you don't wear a suit to the beach and you don't wear a bikini to a meeting. So you know exactly what to use in terms of vocabulary, you know, how to greet formally, informally, how to speak respectfully, more informally, describe something in more detail, agree, confront someone if you need to politely, right? Be more objective, like if you are shopping, you are the client, you're more objective. So you know how to adapt your English. And that at Fluent for Rio is what we call the elevated English. You know, when you are able to navigate through all of these situations using different words and using different vocabulary. You know how to do that very well. You know, a fluent speaker is able to do that very well. So that is number 5. And I wanted to bring this one to our list because it's very easy to fall into that comfort zone of, I know one way to say this, it's enough. I know how to communicate with the guy at the shopping mall, that's enough. It depends on your objective. We are always saying that here at Fluent for Real. We are talking to you, right? We are here to help you get to the 2% English. And that 2% English demands that you get out of your comfort zone and that you push yourself into learning different ways of saying the same thing, different ways of confronting someone and telling someone there's something wrong, agreeing with someone, complimenting, you know, formally and informally. So that is very important when you want to become a fluent speaker. Get out of your comfort zone in terms of vocabulary and structure, okay? Structure in terms of grammar, sophisticated grammar that you know how to use, and vocabulary. Number 5.
Yeah. And that works both ways. So if you think about it, when I first got to the United States for my exchange program back in 2009, 2008, I remember I knew very well grammar and I knew formal British English. I had a hard time communicating in college. People were expecting for me to know slangs and yo, dude, what's up? And things like that. And I'm like, yeah, hey, how are you doing today? You know, that was the way I learned back then. And it's okay. So it took me, yeah, no, it's like, how are you doing? I am fine. And you know, like very paused and very formal for the environment that I was in. To interact with my friends, right? My college friends. And then I also see a lot of people interested in understanding how that cool English is, like, hey dude, what's up? And things like that. And I'm like, okay, you're better off be a college student, or otherwise you're not gonna do well in the workplace, because it's not like, yo, what up? Yay, let's start this meeting then, and woo woo. It's not that.
Yo,
can you imagine? What up,
okay,
dude?
So number 6, I'm gonna go a little faster through the next two ones, because the next one and the other one, because number 6 complements number 5. Your grammar is not basic, so instead of saying maybe I will, you will say I may. Maybe I did, I may have done, I might have done. You're going to use modal verbs. You're going to be able to navigate through that complex grammar structure without hesitating and without only using the basic. You know how to use the complex stuff when it comes to grammar as well. You use the grammar. The grammar is not just in the book for you to memorize the rules and to do exercises. You use it, you speak, you say, and you actually use it as a tool. A grammar is not the end. It's not the end goal. It's the means to get where you want to get. Number 7, you are fluent when your speaking skills don't differ much from your writing skills or listening and reading skills as well. So, are you one of those people that says, I understand everything, but I can't speak? I read everything, but I can't speak, or I don't know how to write. So your skills should be balanced. The 4 skills, writing, reading, speaking, listening, they can't be very, very different from each other if you want to be a fluent speaker, if you want to be that, that 2% English. So analyze, self-analyze right now. Are you one of those people that considers that you have very, very different and very far from each other abilities, or not? Something to keep an eye on, all right?
Leave it in the comments for us, even though I cannot see the comments anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what happened today.
The last one is myself telling Luis Henrique Medeiros that I am super tired today, but that was my last one.
Oh,
the last one I can see here.
Number 8. This is really interesting. Once you get to a certain level and you become fluent, that doesn't mean you have learned all the words in the English language. We are always learning new things. But then, how do you survive in the real world, listening, living, or going through traveling or something like that, in contact with the language? When you hear something new, you have acquired the ability to listen to a new word and know how to spell it. You know how to spell the word. You can look it up later or immediately in the dictionary, You can repeat the word to the person but wait, what does this mean? So your listening is good. You are able to repeat, and you can visualize the spelling in your head. That helps a lot. Once you get used to the sounds and the pronunciation of words, and oh, this sound probably spells, this word is probably spelled like that. That's something interesting that happens to fluent speakers. Does that happen to you? Are you able to listen to a new word you've never heard and guess the spelling, at least 90% of it right, or, be able to find it online, just from, listening, hearing it? Does that happen to you, MC?
60% of the time. Sometimes I can hear and I mimic the sound of the word, and I ask back, what does that word mean? Oh, that means da 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 da. But I ask right away. I tend to ask right away because I'm always afraid of Googling it and have the word completely wrong and be out to lunch, and then, woo, now I don't know.
Be out to lunch. Yeah, and even if the person does respond your question later on, for you to really remember the word, you should be able to write it, even if the person explains it to you. Do you dream in English? Dream in English. Think in English. Catch yourself thinking in English. Does that happen? This is actually connected to another one, which is coming later on. I'm going to anticipate number 15. 9 and 15 are actually connected, because when you think in English, you are able to communicate without translating. And the fact that you are able to think in English, oh, what do I have to do today? Okay, today I have to go to the supermarket, I have to do this, I have to solve this problem. That means you are producing language without any need of Portuguese. That's a great sign, if you are able to think in English, and you should exercise that. It's not something that happens, out of the blue. It's something you can exercise. You can start thinking about your daily tasks, your decisions, your plans in English, to exercise that. Try to avoid the translation, avoid thinking in Portuguese to produce English. That's number 9. Oops. Number 10. Oops. I almost tore the paper. Number 10. When your pronunciation and your accent stop being an issue, they don't get in the way anymore. You know, it's not about how you're saying things. It's about what you're saying. It's not a barrier. Like MC said, it's not something that gets in the way of communication. You know, a native speaker can understand you regardless of having an accent, all right? Having an accent is not a problem. We always say that. Bad pronunciation is the problem. An accent is not. How do you feel about this one, MC?
Well, that made me sometimes here and there, I still end up having to repeat myself because somebody didn't understand, and that's okay. Sometimes I'm in a noisy place. Sometimes connection's not good. Sometimes things get in the way and create the environment that's not the best one for me to be understood. But one similar recent situation that happened to me that I was like, oh freaking God, really, really, until now, until like 2021, really, is that going to happen? Was when I was with my friend's parents and I was saying, no, this is on my to-do list. But I said to-do list in a fast way, like to-do list, in my to-do list. So I changed the intonation and I kind of combine two words that need to be separated to be understood properly. So then they were like, to-do list? What is that? And I'm like, my to-do list. Oh, your to-do list. Okay. And then I'm like, oh my God. Okay.
To-do. My to-do list.
My to-do list, you know, when you're trying to speak fast with words that are supposed to be broken down and said very separated. Anyway.
Yeah. But I also think that, you know, sometimes because we are bilingual, we may be a little hard on ourselves and go like, oh, they asked me to repeat. It's because I'm bilingual. No, you know, not necessarily. The to-do list, for sure. What's a to-do list? No, to-do. Oh, right. That was an intonation or pronunciation issue. But,
Yeah.
you know, we should cut ourselves some slack too. We ask Brazilians, but what did you say again? You know, come again. I don't get it. Portuguese. So that's the same thing happens in English.
Oh, can I share another story again? Remember Halloween? It was close to Halloween because I used that filter and posted here on Instagram. I was trying to buy coffee at a local coffee shop.
Oh, right.
And I was using the drive-through. As I was placing my order, I was like, well, I want an iced latte, please. And then the lady on the other end, she was like, well, come again, and iced latte. No, can you repeat yourself? Oh, okay, iced latte. And I said that 4 times and I was second guessing myself. I was like, I don't even know English anymore. What's happening to me today? Maybe I'm off. Maybe it's Monday. Is it Monday? Anyway, I was all like second guessing myself. And in the end, she was like, oh no, I'm sorry. I understood what you wanted. I'm just asking to confirm because it's -8 outside and you're asking me an iced drink. And I'm like, oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I got you, friend. Yeah, no worries. I really enjoy iced drinks regardless of the weather.
If you don't understand what second guessing means, it means to doubt yourself. To, you know, think that what you're doing, what you chose is wrong. So you're like, should I have done that? Should I have chosen that? So she was second guessing herself, like, oh, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? But actually, she had done nothing wrong. Alain asked here, is it really possible to think in English even though you are not a native? Really possible, really possible. I do that. MC does that. I know a lot of people who do that as well. If you do think in English, leave it in the comments here. Let's see how many people can also think in English even though they're not a native speaker. You know, Marcelo commented, when you're able to understand different accents, meetings with Indians are very crazy sometimes. For sure, Jean-Marcel, understanding different accents is something fluent speakers can do. When you're listening is so good that you're able to, one sound, like let's say the word favor, you know, right? That sound, F-A-V-O-R, and in different accents, they will come in different shapes and forms. But you know that sound, favor, and so on, Australian, Scottish, whatever. And then you are able to, okay, every time the A comes like this sound is the sound of an A for that person, for that nationality. So it's definitely something that fluent speakers can do. But, it
Remember
can still
my
be
what
hard.
have you learned story
What have you learned? No.
with Japanese?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. But
I'll
yeah,
share
that
that
one.
later because otherwise we'll be here forever, and then we need a drink, a snack.
Yes, for that one, right? Number 11 then. Okay, when you have that, has this ever happened to you? You have a conversation or you read something and you can't remember if it happened in Portuguese or in English. You read like an article online, the news, you hear about something that happened, and you can't really remember if that conversation or that text that you read was in English or in Portuguese. You just understood what happened, and when you replicate that to other people and you're telling the story, you're sharing it with someone, you're just sharing in English and Portuguese. You're not really sure, and you can't really remember what language it was. Has this happened to you? It has happened to me a couple times.
It did happen in a different shape and form. It was actually me watching a movie, and I remember that transition phase where you need subtitles in English, and then all of a sudden you go to the movies, and then there's no subtitles or just watching the movie, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can understand. It's halfway through and there's no subtitles. Yay! So I remember that feeling, of excitement of like, oh my God, I was able to understand most of the things by now, and the movie's halfway through, no subtitles. Maybe I can give up that.
Yeah, that's interesting too. All right. And number 12, you can have a fight in English. A fight with a friend or, a loved one. No, don't fight with your loved ones. But what I mean is, you can go through something very emotional. You can get very, carried away with emotions and still communicate in English and still control your language, control your English, and be able to communicate what you're feeling. When we get anxious, nervous, angry, these emotions, they tend to shake our English as well. Together with the heart rate going up, our English tends to go away as well. We lose track of words, we lose track of our thinking. So if you can do that, if you can go through something like a meeting, you're very anxious and still go through it, or a confrontation, a situation at work where you have to confront someone or you are confronted and you deal with a lot of emotion and you are able to go through that. Great job. Really cool. Right? Yes, Juju said that's challenging.
It
Very
is.
challenging.
It takes time. And
Yeah.
especially because if you're very passionate about a subject and you need to communicate and you need to explain your point of view, and let's say you disagree or something, if you don't use the right vocabulary, even to show and to express how upset you are with the subject and how upset you are with a decision or something, people are not going to understand. Um, it is important, even like not only to express yourself but to also verbalize your emotions as well. So oftentimes I say, hey, I'm passionate about it, so this is why I'm being very emphatic here. So this is something that I voice to the team in order for them to understand where I'm coming from and why I'm raising my voice a little bit and why I'm asking for space to speak. So that's important as well, because otherwise you might be like up to here and people are not even going to understand that that's a burden to you.
Yeah, we're Latin people.
We
Oh my
are.
God. They're hot-blooded. Okay, so number 13, when you feel offended by curse words, when curse words actually offend you, and someone says, pee, and someone says, you go pee yourself, and you mother pee, or all that list of offensive curse words, and you actually will go like, ooh, a curse word, someone said something a little bit offensive, or I don't know, in any way, offensive. So that's something that happens to fluent speakers. Does that happen to you, MC?
Well, yes, unfortunately, because to be honest, it used to be a great way for you not to be affected by passive aggressive people. Because sometimes people are not aggravated at you and cursing you. Sometimes they want to point a finger in your face and say bad words, but they don't do it. And they keep everything together, but they're talking to you in a very passive aggressive way. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to not understand that at all. Like back in 2000s, oops, back in 2017 when I got here, I remember having to deal with that kind of situation and not understanding the how severe the situation really was, and how people actually were bullying me at a point, like depending on where you go. And now I do, and that's unfortunate because now I understand. Now I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah, I know
feel
you're
it.
being passive aggressive, and I know you want to curse me, and that's okay.
And number 14, we have 15, but I said 15 already. It's kind of the last one. When you stop using the Portuguese way of speaking and you sound like a native, and you understand that the way that we start sentences in Portuguese, the way that we construct our line of thought in Portuguese is not really the same way that you're supposed to do in English. So once you understand that, you start thinking like a native, you recognize what is unnatural to say in English, and you just stop doing that. You use the idiomatic way. You choose your role models, either from movies, from series, from real life, and then you choose the idiomatic way. You go to the idiomatic road, and then you become less Portuguesey. And what we call that here at Fluent for Real, it's one of the pillars also of our philosophy, of our method, which is to become clear cut. You are idiomatic, you go straight to the point. You don't have to go around to say something, like we do in Portuguese, um, taking that road to get where you want. No, you take the native road, you take the idiomatic road, and you go straight to the point. So you are clear and transparent and idiomatic at the same time. So you are clear cut. That's number 14. Very, very important too, to be clear cut, and use that vocabulary. We have a question. Okay. How about when you curse in English? Well, when I curse in English, I would say it doesn't weigh the same as when I curse in Portuguese. It's a little bit lower than my curse words in Portuguese. I gotta say. So it's easier to curse in English to myself, like if I don't know, stumble, if I hit a toe or something, I'm gonna curse probably in English, maybe in English. A lot of times I do that, but it doesn't feel the same. I think if I really want to vent, Portuguese will do the trick better.
I agree. I agree. Same here.
Oh my God. All
My
right.
body language will tell the story eventually, but um, I agree. Portuguese will do the work much better.
So the last one, I'm just going to repeat to close the 15 plus things, is to not translate in your head. You don't think in Portuguese to produce English. You think in English to produce English. That is possible to do. That is something that we believe in here at Fluent for Real, teaching and learning English through English, right? From any step of the way, from the basic or not, from the level that you are, from the basic. So that's how we believe things can be done. And so that's it, not translating in your head. I like the comments, right? Thank you all for the comments that you left here, for your additions, for the things that make you feel fluent, or that you see and admire in other people. If you remember anything else, leave that in the comments as well. The class will be saved, will be posted right after we finish here, so you can watch it again if you want. You can leave a comment. But anyway, this class was to get you to think about the real life situations that make a fluent speaker, that define a fluent speaker. You know, what are they able to do? What do you want to be able to do? When you know what you want to do, you are able to get there, to find your way there. If we don't know where we're going, we can't start the journey, right? So that's it, MC.
Great class. Thank you so much. And great way to refresh our minds with that content.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Some people are just walking in. Hi, Larissa. Hi, Larissa. And people are just walking in, but don't worry, the class will be saved. You can watch it right now. You know, in a couple of seconds, I'm just going to close it and upload it. Thank you all for coming, Sueli. Thank you so much for coming with us, for staying here with us. Bye-bye, Emmanuel. Thank you also for joining us, the whole class. We will see you all next week, Wednesday at 9 p.m. Brazil time as usual, probably for class number 77, according to my rough calculations. Class number 77. That's a lot of classes, right? Thank you all. Have a great weekend. That's okay, Larissa. You're late, but the class will be saved. You can watch it. Thank you all for coming. Have an amazing weekend. Whether you are in the summer like MC in Canada, living the dream, or if you are in the fall, wintry Brazil, you know, a little chilly, but also warm and cozy. Thank you all so much. Thank you, partner.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.